The main character awakens in a medical facility, utterly gasping for air, entirely unaware of his location or the reason he is still alive. He yanks the bed covers from his limbs, solely to discover that his limbs indeed are still gone, bewildered and unsettled. He has no inkling about current events or even the present hour. Precisely at that instant, a young schoolgirl strides into the chamber. Her vision blurring with moisture, she hastens to embrace him, addressing him dear brother. She vows to him she will locate the motorist who maimed him and will ensure retribution is met. While he returns her embrace, attempting to console her, he comprehends that he has journeyed backward through passing time. Seemingly, our central figure, Shinxing, has reverted through time by 12 months. It was the period of vehicle collision truly launched him skyward, and he ultimately forfeited his limbs. Chun was the nation's most youthful magnate, the head of Rising Sun International Group. Yet that impact rendered him disabled. Following his medical confinement, his supposed comrade Tinkai, whom Chun confided in completely, frequently called upon him. Yet it transpired this treacherous viper was merely exploiting Shun's dire predicament, usurping command of Rising Sun International Group. He further attempted to wed Shun's sibling through intimidation, stating he would deny all health care for her beloved brother. The scoundrel then brazenly embraced his sibling directly before Shun, and all Shun could manage was to drag himself feebly along. Weeping around, that period a game named Divine Path was launched, a multinational creation boasting complete immersive realism. Actual funds were convertible into the virtual game tender, and it transformed into a worldwide phenomenon instantly upon release. The diversion possessed one unique aspect, namely that your avatar's inherent qualities within the game could genuinely impact your tangible world capabilities. This ought to have been Shun's prime opportunity to alter destiny. However, during that period, Shun was entirely without funds. Tinkai had seized all his possessions, rendering him destitute, lacking any currency. Shun lacked means to acquire valuable in-game assets immediately then, and he was fated for sheer ordinariness. Concurrently, that viper Tinkai reveled in abundant riches. It was the affluence that previously was Shun's very own, and that scoundrel was simply squandering it with wild abandon, obtaining all prime assets and top attributes. One fateful day, Shun summoned that villain into a chamber, wherein he had previously rigged deadly explosives, prepared to conclude everything ensuring Tinkai perished alongside. The instant Shun activated the detonation mechanism, the location erupted utterly, annihilating his form. Yet Tinkai remained entirely unscathed, not a mark. He remained there taunting Shun while Shun drew his final gasps, even proceeding so far as to stride across his very body, degrading him with one final insult. And currently, in this moment, Shun finds himself transported to the instant immediately following his limb loss. He is uncertain how or why he was granted this other opportunity. Yet one certainty remains: he is resolved not to squander this precious chance. On this occasion, he intends to rectify matters and amend what he previously could not achieve. Being the elder sibling to this innocent young maiden, he feels compelled to safeguard her and their ancestral heritage. He is seething with internal fury, desiring to dismember this vile monster, Kai limb from limb. He resolves that as the game is newly introduced, it shall require 30 days for players to grasp that the diversion can influence tangible existence. Consequently, this single month represents his sole opportunity to reverse fortunes against Kai. He requests his younger sibling to procure for him the gaming caps, enabling him to commence his new gameplay. The young lady is utterly dumbfounded by his sudden plea and cannot avoid pondering what currently ails her dear brother. While they are engaged in this very dialogue, Kai then enters, appearing as if he is the sole compassionate individual on earth, truly solicitous of Shun. He queries him if he succumbs to obsessive gaming. Who then is going to manage his vast enterprise? Shun grows irate instantly at his very appearance, yet masks his true feelings, feigning utter indifference, ascribing it to mere tedium since he is currently bedridden. Kai surmises that if Chun is absorbed by his virtual amusement, it would prove simpler for him to then usurp control of his enterprise. He informs Shun his gaming capsule shall be delivered quite soon, and he need not fret at all about the company, since he is diligently managing it all for him. Shun observes him now advancing towards his sibling, and swiftly intervenes, declaring that his younger sibling then, Xiao Tong, shall remain by his side this evening as he desires their close companionship. Kai feels slightly thwarted, yet he ultimately departs, powerless to act further. He leaves the chamber and gazes at Shun via the window pane, pondering how this fellow could possibly endure. He reviles his hired assassin for failing to eliminate this nuisance, and resolves to employ an oil tanker to ensure his demise subsequently. Concurrently within the sterile medical chamber, Shun now implores Tong, his beloved sister, to grant him a vital service and shift all his capital into the game, and liquidate all the corporate enterprise shares. Tong is stunned by this directive from her brother and questions his current sanity. He placates her, stating he is not unwell, merely undertaking a monumental gamble now. Following 3 hours, his fantastically costly immersion capsule is finally delivered, bearing a staggering cost of 500 million. He promptly enters it and the new diversion commences. The initial sensation he vividly experiences upon immersing himself fully is the wondrous sensation of maneuvering his limbs entirely unimpeded again, just as he vividly recollects from previously. The diversion commences, offering selections of warrior mage and ranger, assassin and priest, knight and also summoner. He selects the ranger class with which he is previously acquainted well. As his new persona alters, he senses incredible potent might and obtains an exclusive benefit for his status as an elite participant. His elvish lineage, with its monumental impact, then becomes engaged. He further receives a tome of abilities, granting him vulnerability identification. He is utterly overjoyed upon learning this new development, because he had perfected this precise ability in his former existence, thanks to the elite new immersion capsule. He additionally obtains an exclusive mysterious strongbox. However, to access its contents, he must expend 50 million. He contemplates deeply whether he ought to proceed or not. Perhaps this is his prime opportunity to risk it all, otherwise Kai would squander it. Regardless, after infusing currency into the coffer, he obtains a grand reward titled Evolve Everything. Witnessing this incredible boon, he is both astounded and immensely thrilled. This scarce celestial aptitude is not something one can readily purchase. With a mere 50 million golden currency units, Shun meticulously scrutinized the intricate specifics of this talent. The primary aptitude it confers ensures an absolute certainty of enhancing any found object by a single tier, with a slight 5% probability of activate. A secondary advancement to boost the same object by 2 full tiers. The subsequent ability assures complete certainty of enhancing any object or implement. Aptitude or jewel by a pair of stages with guaranteed boost by 3 stages. Upon ascertaining this remarkable new faculty, he is utterly elated and deems it genuinely revolutionary indeed. While rival gamers are merely acquiring silver and bronze tier objects, Shun shall now obtain superior golden items and beyond. The considerable capital he invested is exceedingly well worth it, because now he can absolutely dominate all rivals under his might. He is contemplating entering the virtual fray very soon to vanquish some beasts. Subsequently, he aims to evaluate the full efficacy of his aptitude through item acquisition. Yet the complication is this aptitude necessitates a full 24-hour reset period. Upon becoming fully equipped and finalizing all his initial arrangements, he then activates the primary portal into the game world. Shun is convinced it is now the moment to alter his entire destiny. Upon fully immersing in the vast virtual world, he is transported to the novice hamlet and is astounded by the unfolding spectacle. It quickly transpires that he had incorrectly presumed he would be the sole affluent individual within this game. Yet now it distinctly appears there are numerous other wealthy individuals in this new world. He is somewhat bewildered observing the general chaotic pursuit of a lone chicken. Shun then queries a couple of random individuals standing quite near him if dispatching such simple fowl assists them in acquiring crucial points. Shun is somewhat taken aback by this display and ponders their utter foolishness. He understands he must absolutely maximize each and every fleeting second to swiftly accomplish his vital initial objective. He resolves to depart immediately because vanquishing the beginner area formidable chief and claiming its initial prime bounty is his paramount current concern. As he ventures into untamed territory, he receives an alert advising extreme vigilance, since the various creatures lurking herein are exceedingly perilous and fierce. He chooses to disregard it, for he must must swiftly dispatch beasts to advance his power. Now achieving the initial takedown of the area chief will yield substantial additional boons. And this unique honor cannot be usurped by any rivals. He accesses his personal stores to ready himself for the imminent challenging conflict. His personal stores are surprisingly replete with numerous objects that currently appear to possess little, if any, tangible worth. He now ponders if these seemingly mundane objects can indeed transform, as it would prove challenging to truly distinguish himself, lacking any distinct advantages. Furthermore, this transformation power can only be utilized one single time per DM. Thus, he strongly feels it would be entirely squandered not to employ it now. He contemplates if there is perhaps another item within his current stores, possessing an even superior capacity for profound future transformation. That is precisely when he recalls his unique elvish lineage special aptitude, and swiftly transforms it following some rather dazzling visual effects. The transformation completes quite favorably, and his overall might is significantly augmented. Shun is utterly astonished to witness that his aptitude can transform his very lineage. And with this newly augmented power, it is simple to vanquish many beasts. Now he distinctly detects a distant lupin cry and contemplates attempting to pinpoint its source. He soon ascertains that fellow participants are assaulting the local creatures cooperatively now, seeking enhanced security and protection yet. This particular group committed a truly grave mistake since lupins always hunt together, and now that entire group is completely encircled by truly ravenous lupins. Swiftly and decisively, each one of them is brutally slain by the wolves. It is at that precise moment Shun stealthily and expertly strikes the unsuspecting wolves with an arrow from their rear, and instantly acquires 100 more crucial vitality units for himself, and additionally procures some valuable lupin flesh, which is a potent restorative provision just as he is on the verge of advancing. The remaining agitated lupins quickly spot him and begin their menacing cry towards him. He observes this new development and promptly resolves then that, since he has now previously evaluated his potent combative aptitude well, he keenly desires to evaluate some of his additional capabilities also. He commences dashing and quickly discovers his innate celerity is significantly enhanced too. Now he can easily surpass lupins in sheer speed, lacking any extra gear, which is entirely attributable to his potent elvish lineage unique aptitude. He glances back and briefly ponders the specific reason the lupins ceased their pursuit, but quickly ascertains he has inadvertently crossed into the dangerous buffalo domain. This particular new region presents a far greater challenge with tier 5 formidable beasts. Unexpectedly, then a young lady calls out to him from his rear. "Greetings, attractive stranger." She then inquires about his potential interest in joining their current group. She informs him their party is presently intending to pursue the formidable bison creatures. They are likely the very first pioneers to arrive in this zone since the game launched. Yet a rather disagreeable individual within her team curtly states his inclusion is impossible because he is merely tier 2 and would solely impede their collective swift progress. Shun is experiencing some discomfort around them and politely advises them to simply proceed, as he himself is currently journeying towards an entirely different unknown spot. An individual with distinctly violet tresses then contemptuously labels him quite foolish. Yet Shin firmly maintains that he much prefers to operate entirely as a lone wolf. The other fellow with striking cerulean locks cautions Shun that the subsequent zone ahead holds significantly greater unseen peril, and that it essentially remains completely uncharted territory for all players. He then queries Shun if he fully understands the dire penalty of perishing. Shun retorts quite mockingly that he is but a novice player who has not yet perished. Would you perhaps care to instruct him fully? Oh, senior fellow. The azure-haired one is predictably hooked and commences detailing that upon his perish, he is certainly going to forfeit all his precious wealth and valuable gear. And despite it being merely a simple diversion, the profound agony of actual perishing is acutely tangible and true. Moreover, you shall forfeit all your diligently gained valuable progression markers too, and they will be drastically reduced by a full 50%. Shin offered his casual gratitude and then gestured a dismissive farewell. Nevertheless, the kind young lady proposed, in including him in their party, as it was excessively perilous for him to venture forth entirely unaccompanied now. The boorish fellow then sharply interrupted her plea, saying, "If this absolute fool truly desires his own demise, simply allow him to proceed and do not squander your valuable concern." Shin soon reaches a vast, ominous cavern strewn with countless craniums and skeletal remains, instilling a profound and immediate mortal terror deep within his very being. Deep within the shadowy grotto, a truly massive serpent slumbers quite serenely until Shun's presence suddenly rouses. Shun employs a unique aptitude and quickly discerns that it is a tier 10 chieftain, the colossal serpent monarch, and he also pinpoints the massive reptile's primary vulnerability, situated precisely on the vulnerable nape of its powerful neck. Commencing at tier 2, he gains 1,000 vitality units from the elven monarch's essence, significantly augmenting his own life meter well beyond that of the formidable boss. Undaunted, he expertly knocks a sharp shaft to his longbow and targets the massive serpent. Yet the agile serpent darts about with truly incredible, surprising speed, which is certainly going to complicate any attempt to accurately strike the boss. He manages to hit the serpent, but ascertains his offensive might is rather minimal. Auspiciously, his own celerity is more than sufficient for a relatively sluggish beast like this serpent. He can therefore methodically dispatch it from a safe distance to its death. He again attempts to skillfully strike the large serpent on its vulnerable back, and the colossal beast instinctively guards its clearly identified vulnerable point. Shun then receives a potent augmentation to might and celerity from his monarch's essence aptitude, and at long last he eventually succeeds in accurately hitting the serpent's vulnerable spot. And in swift retaliation, the serpent suddenly emits a vast plume of extremely toxic vapor, its ultimate tactic. The insidious toxin rapidly diminishes his precious remaining vitality. He feels utterly bewildered and is uncertain of his next move, because with this progression, he will be forced to entirely recommence in under 2½ precious minutes. The massive serpent continues its slow, deliberate ascent, steadily widening the perilous gap now between itself and Shun. This clearly suggests the wily serpent wants to lessen its overall vulnerability to direct attack, and gradually attrit him slowly down to his eventual demise. Shin defiantly shouts towards the serpent, informing it that it gravely underestimates his capabilities, then expertly launches his deadly sharp shaft directly towards it. The swift shaft strikes the serpent true, inflicting 150 points of devastating harm. Now the great beast is visibly faltering and cannot endure much further direct assault. Now is the opportune moment for a truly decisive, crushing blow. If he successfully strikes the identified vulnerability, it signifies precisely twofold inflicted harm. Shin confidently believes 2 short minutes will surely suffice to finally dispatch. After successfully landing that truly decisive and crucial blow, the wounded serpent merely retaliated against him, using its powerful, formidable tail, desperately attempting to prevent any further impact on its identified vulnerable spot. Yet this defensive maneuver does not deter Shun's relentless ongoing offensive against the snake. He persistently continues to skillfully assail his formidable, now desperate foe, and the very next decisive blow accurately strikes the great serpent's soft underbelly, which surprisingly inflicts significantly even greater devastating harm. Perhaps this occurs because the great adversary's underside offers far less natural resistance. Although its primary cervical area is indeed a known definite weak spot, is still somewhat shielded by its tough outer plate. He now surmises that this new discovery will greatly aid him to vanquish the serpent much faster. Just as he is preparing to strike anew, the serpent seems to mock and furiously retaliates, suddenly erecting a formidable jagged stone barrier directly in front of him now. After effectively ensnaring Shun, the great snake resumes emitting its deadly toxic fumes anew. Chin's present vitality now stands at 600 and is diminishing by 20 units per second. He is currently unable to ascend, and even if his vitality were somehow twofold now, he still may not possibly endure this incredibly potent and deadly toxin. He then abruptly recalls the vital lupin flesh he procured after dispatching that earlier wolf. He quickly consumes it, and his own vitality promptly starts to regenerate at a steady 20 units each second. Although this particular flesh offers no direct antidote to the pervasive venom, it effectively negates the continuous vitality, draining, debilitating impact for now. The critical following result shall now be decisively determined within the ensuing 20 seconds. Shun's focus might surges, and he resolves to target the great snake's vulnerable optic organ. After successfully striking the large serpent directly in its vulnerable sensitive eye, it painfully collapses earthward briefly, permitting him to precisely strike its exposed nape. Upon receiving another devastating blow directly to its now exposed sensitive nape, the serpent hisses with unimaginable fury at Shun, pure incandescent rage in its gaze. Shun calmly and swiftly nocks yet another deadly accurate shaft, launches it precisely at the already embedded shaft, cleaving that first arrow cleanly asunder. Upon finally vanquishing the formidable and terrifying beast, Chin's own vitality simultaneously plummets to naught, just as the great beast finally perishes. Chin yet obtains a grand conqueror's prize, and his toxic affliction is blessedly dispelled. He additionally receives an official system-wide game alert, lauding him enthusiastically for his truly pioneering takedown of this formidable zone chieftain, and thereby securing the entire game, Realm's very first inaugural major kill, securing a position on the honor roll. His triumph shall be proclaimed throughout the realm thrice. Shun is queried if he desires to obscure his designation, yet he elects to display it, for he remained obscure for sufficient time. He then affirms this choice, and his triumph is broadcast to the entire virtual realm. He employs a variant designation, Chao Ju Wanga, as the populace is alerted to the demise of the chieftain. They wax wrathful, pondering who at tier 3 could have singly bested the chieftain. We also observe that identical threesome from earlier, and they have just vanquished a minor underling. Yet they surmise that the creature they recently overcame is the actual chieftain beast. The portly one queries his azure-haired comrade which manner of spoils they shall receive for vanquishing this creature, to which his azure-haired comrade enthusiastically exclaims that it surely is superior tier accoutrements. They are becoming utterly ecstatic over the notion that they will be lauded by their commander. For their endeavors, they all get an alert stating the participant, Chao Jo Wanya, has triumphantly vanquished the colossal serpent monarch, acquiring 1,000 prestige units and a grand coffer. Both of these buffoons then feel like utter jesters upon comprehending that the foe they overcame was hardly the chieftain beast. And what is even more stupefying to them now is that there is indeed an individual vastly mightier than their group. Shin, conversely, for his part, immediately ascended 5 tiers and obtained a superior prize. He also acquired 30 further attribute units, which he designated to dexterity for stalkers and woodsmen. Enhancing dexterity augments both offensive might and sheer elusiveness, with the most significant boosts in striking celerity and locomotive quickness. This triumph signifies a flawless beginning for his quest. He inspects the plunder from his foe and discovers 10 silver pieces, which then wondrously transmute into 10 golden currency units. Shun is euphoric upon obtaining 10 golden pieces in the novice zone, feeling like a veritable magnate indeed. Concurrently, elsewhere in the untamed expanses, the bison pursuers obtain merely a single bronze piece. After toiling for hours, which seems utterly farcical, they are actually shedding bitter tears as they contemplate how inequitable this wretched diversion truly is. Shun's form radiates a brilliant auric luminescence, suggesting the chance of a subsequent transformation being activated. He unearthed a scarce artifact within the diversion, a singular crystal currency piece. Crystalline jewels may be employed to procure unique and mysterious artifacts from various game personas, and presenting them to game personas can markedly boost their positive disposition. He recollected mentions of it within his former existence, yet had not once truly witnessed it prior. Nevertheless, he sensed it would prove beneficial shortly. He stowed the acquired objects within his satchel and proceeded to unveil further discovered artifacts. The subsequent artifact he obtained was a silver, single grip blade featuring a distinct serpentine form. However, it was unserviceable to our skilled bowman. Not being a longbow, he resolved to retain it still. will, so he could trade it for funds and acquire valuable merits. The subsequent object is an azure-scaled cuirass. He recollects that the standard grade then, azure-scaled cuirass, possessed no distinct enhancements at all, merely some minor statistical augmentations. Yet this specific one is silver in Tier 1 and boasts a protective aura. Nevertheless, it mandates he reach Tier 10 to employ it properly. This dampens his spirits, yet he recalls the argent coffer he obtained and speculates about what treasures it might possibly hold. He unseals the coffer, wishing he avoids acquiring worthless junk this instance. As he unlatches it, the foremost object obtained is 7-star linked shafts. These potent shafts expend 50 units of mystical energy and launch a volley of 7 shafts in quick succession at the foe. Each individual shaft inflicts completely unmitigated grievous harm, equivalent to 1% of the adversary's peak total life force. Yet it stipulates a strict requirement of achieving Tier 10, unearthing this exceptionally scarce new artifact. Shun is profoundly elated now and deems this aptitude divine and solely for skilled marksmen. However, this irksome prerequisite persists, and it is truly exasperating. Once he attains Tier 10, his offensive output will markedly then rise. Thus, he must advance his tiers with considerable swiftness. As he is nearing tier progression within the dark cave, he abruptly perceives an utterance emanating from much deeper within. Some individual is desperately pleading for urgent aid. Shun peers around the large boulder and discovers a young maiden reclining there. She implores him for his assistance to rescue her from the colossal serpent. Her given designation is Lady Gu. Shun identifies her as a persona purportedly bestowing participants with secret missions. He states the colossal serpent is dispatched and is no longer present here. Thus, she may now safely emerge from her hiding spot. She reveals to him her pedal extremity is harmed and she cannot depart unassisted, and implores Shun to physically transport her from this place. He appears somewhat discomposed, yet resolves to then assist her, as he perceives no viable alternative course of action. After he carefully bears her forth from the cavern, she softly caresses Shun's visage and offers her appreciation in a suggestive fashion, stating that upon their subsequent future planned encounter, she intends to provide him with exceptionally excellent personal attention. Yet the instant he detects the utterance subsequent encounter, he abruptly casts her down onto the unforgiving ground. However, Jiyu states she lacks significant means of recompense besides her own form. Seductively, she inquires of his desire, yet he bellows at her to cease her improper conduct. She's rather taken with him and proffers him a dark lunar-edged weapon. Yet Shun is not at all duped by this particular ruse. He demanded she bestow upon him the truly concealed specialization. Yet Jiyu attempts to deliberately feign complete utter ignorance, querying what concealed specialization he could possibly be referencing now. Yet he is engaging in no charades with her and promptly intimidates her. He warns her that if she refuses to aid him in this matter, he may be compelled to locate her 15-year-old female offspring. Yu grows terrified after perceiving the menace and acquiesces to aid him. She employs her mystical arts to direct him toward the concealed specialization. She reveals the concealed specialization ordeal and informs him that upon his success, he shall be granted full admission to the coveted concealed specialization. Upon observing this prospect, he grows exceedingly joyful and quite thrilled. He offers his appreciation, yet she interjects and offers a faint sly smile, prior to advising him against any undue display of haste. In expressing his gratitude receiving this peculiar remark from her, Shun is somewhat perplexed and ponders the true meaning of her statement. Yet prior to him being able to inquire of her further, he receives an official alert which then stuns him profoundly to his core. He obtains a shadow stalker ordeal rated at an arduous grade, wherein lack of success results in absolute, irrevocable final exclusion. Shun is apprehensive of the formidable grade because he possesses but a single opportunity. He accosts Jiyu and queries her if there is some egregious mistake. He is merely at tier 7. He ought to be undertaking standard and novice grades. This advanced grade will surely lead to his swift, certain demise. His very limb is ensnared, and he cannot even break free or venture forth. Ji cackles and exclaims the audacity he displays to target her precious offspring. She declares that his ultimate final demise has now truly arrived. Shen also observes an interface display which indicates that Gu's positive disposition has plummeted to absolute not upon observing this grim new development. He surmises that he could potentially possess an opportunity to then evade. If he first manages to enhance her current negative disposition, prior to him considering any further potential alternative actions, the gateway began to materialize and he was powerless to intervene now. Now Ji states his success or failure entirely rests upon his own prowess now. Yet he warns her not to so readily misjudge his actual capabilities, and that immediately upon his successful, triumphant planned return, he shall indeed then proceed to seek out her beloved offspring. The gateway materializes within the firmament of an utterly alien realm. There is nothing but pervasive desolate dunes far and wide, and he is unaware of the location delivered by this accursed wretched gateway. He obtains an alert regarding a challenging tier shadow stalker ordeal. His ordeal now commences, and Shun understands the true gravity of the situation. Is simply succeed or utterly perish, then unexpectedly. He observes a pointed protuberance slowly rising from the vast shifting dunes. Prior to him being able to properly examine it with any real scrutiny, the protuberance rapidly enlarged and then completely enveloped poor Shun. A colossal, fearsome dune beast suddenly erupts from the very earth beneath. Its truly massive maw was densely filled with sharp-pointed conical dentition. Shun speculates if this monstrous being is indeed the designated ordeal adversary. He employs his vulnerability scan and ascertains that it possesses a tier of 5, a formidable resilient score of 32,000 precious vitality units, and a surprising locomotive quickness rating of a full 11. Its primary vulnerability is the very core of its gaping, monstrous maw. Shin deduces that this particular dune beast is not of an advanced tier, yet it is exceedingly resilient and possesses an incredibly dense, impenetrable hide. He assails the beast aiming for the core of its maw and launches a shaft, diminishing its total life force by a solid 130 units. If each and every single shaft accurately finds its mark within the maw, then victory is assured for him. The dune beast readies a direct frontal assault, a maneuver that appears utterly irrational to our hero Shun, as he fully intends to precisely target the core of the great worm's maw. Notwithstanding his successful evasion of the direct primary assault, Shun distinctly experiences a powerful tremor from the sheer concussive force. He comprehends that if he had been impacted squarely by that blow, the resulting sheer power could well have been utterly physically annihilated, potentially even pulverizing him. The dune beast then plunges deep into the earth, leaving a truly vast and ominous chasm in its immediate wake. This development immediately elicits considerable deep apprehension within our Shun, as monitoring its subterranean progress now proves exceedingly more difficult. Gazing intently down into the dark, forbidding, shadowy abyss now, he notes the dune beast's quite unexpected nimbleness within the subterranean depths. Once it emerges again, Shun will possess mere moments to effectively then respond. Shin questions his own capacity to successfully evade each and every single assault. Therefore, he absolutely must locate a more suitably stable elevated position to thereby lessen his overall current exposure to these surprise assaults. He surveys his surroundings for an adjacent stone formation where he can establish a position. He quickly espies a solitary adjacent stone turret structure and ascertains it would serve as an optimal strategic position for his counterattack. Nevertheless, prior to him actually being able to fully attain it, the dune beast violently erupts once more from the very earth beneath, immediately capitalizing on this fleeting yet crucial perfect new moment. Shun resolves to assail the dune beast repeatedly while he has the clear chance. Shun's relentless assaults markedly diminish the great beast's remaining precious vitality, despite the fact the massive creature is truly grotesquely repellent. The overall conflict now grows considerably more surprisingly quite tenable, provided that Shun successfully eliminates eludes being taken by surprise attacks from directly below. Nevertheless, while our hero Shun is currently suspended precariously aloft, the dune beast startles him with a sudden forceful grit expectoration assault. The wholly unexpected abrupt onslaught then takes him completely by utter surprise, and his precious vitality then diminishes sharply down to -52. His crucial visual acuity is currently impaired by a full 50%, and his overall striking precision unfortunately suffers a 30% notable significant decline. The accursed dune beast had effectively rendered our hero, Shun, temporarily sightless, and if it somehow launched yet another devastating surprise attack on him now, he very likely may not have possibly then successfully endured that assault. He absolutely had to attain the distant stone column with utmost possible urgency. As he rapidly launched his shafts, he was forcibly driven back against the tower. Lacking visual on the beast, Shun could merely surmise precisely where to then aim. After sustaining further damage, the beast plunged profoundly into the earth yet again. From the preceding several potent shafts that had indeed found their intended mark, and the pair of cunning, debilitating, subterranean surprise strikes from far down below, it becomes quite evident that the dune beast's assaults are excessively highly foreseeable. Once an individual fully comprehends its distinct operational combat attack sequence, evading its moves and retaliating in kind then turn remarkably quite simple, as the debilitating visual impairment effect gradually begins to fully dissipate. He baits the beast, coaxing it toward the exterior. The monster explodes from the earth with an abrupt surge of energy, discharging its grit expectoration volley. Yet this occasion Shun is quite poised, employing an adjacent rock monolith. He adroitly alters trajectory while suspended, eluding the strike with great facility. Shun launches a shaft, diminishing the beast's vitality by an additional 260 units. At that very juncture, he discerns the beast possesses merely a pair of foreseeable, uninspired tactics: the grit expectoration and its subterranean surprise assault. Perceiving its constraints, Shun grasps the new opening, resolving it is the moment to terminate the conflict definitively for good. Shun ascends into the very firmament, discharging a barrage of shafts directly into the beast's wide, open maw, every impact swiftly draining its entire vitality. For the ultimate decisive blow, he targets meticulously and launches a shaft squarely into its new cranium. The beast's vitality plummets to utter naught, and thereby the formidable dune beast is vanquished. Following the arduous conflict, Shun's tier then ascends to 8, and his 10 bronze pieces transmute into 10 new argent currency units. He additionally acquires fresh plunder comprising a set of bronze-grade dune footwear. This footwear, although incapable of being improved, provide distinct locomotive advantages on arenaceous new landscapes. Yet Shun remains unenthused by the acquired plunder. Considering a beast of such magnitude, all he obtained were these valueless new footwear. He could not avoid experiencing true disillusionment. Such an immense conflict, and all he acquired was this very rubbish. Exasperated, Shun grumbles to the now vanquished beast. Were it not for the respectable new progression, he would have trampled upon it several additional new instances, precisely when he is on the verge of departing. The inscriptions engraved on the adjacent rock monolith abruptly commence to radiate. Capturing his focus, Shun gazes at the luminous inscriptions perplexed. The slab displays 8 matching inscriptions written, yet solely the single one situated below is now radiated. He ponders the reason this particular inscription has become animated, whereas the remainder continue to be inert. While Shun connects the various elements, he observes additional beasts now advancing. He speculates whether eradicating them entirely is the solution for completing this new ordeal. Swiftly, he ascends the tall monolith. Comprehending it is the optimal strategic position, a subtle grin appears on his visage as he contemplates how perfectly suited this location is for advancing his tiers. Remaining situated on the earth is not a viable choice. Each footfall might attract 7 colossal beasts from every single quarter, irrespective of how swift Shun is when confronting. Such a multitude simultaneously would prove truly unmanageable to overcome. These beasts have been assaulting predicated on tremors from the very earth. Should Shun launch a single shaft into the nearby soil, it might activate a whole swarm of them all concurrently, inundating him and potentially even annihilating his sole, secure new refuge. He must tactically entice them forth and vanquish them all individually one by one. Shun accesses his repository and elects to utilize his new argent currency, aware they will produce a more potent resonance than the less weighty bronze pieces. He casts the currency pieces upon the earth, transmitting disturbances that rouse the many beasts beneath. The instant they emerge, he targets and then dispatches them all. From his turret position yet, the assault scarcely impacts the beast's vitality, as he failed to strike it squarely on its new visage. He then discerns. The trajectory from the turret renders it challenging to achieve a direct impact. Yet this does not perturb him. Possessing ample additional currency available to him, he is assured he can persist in enticing them toward his new snare. Shun dedicates many hours casting currency to instigate disturbances, pursuing the many beasts from his elevated turret. Following almost 4 lengthy hours, he ultimately eradicates them all entirely. His tier ascends to 10, possessing 15 unallocated characteristic new units. He acquires an aggregate of 80 argent currency units. Concurrently, his mystical energy augments by 30 units and his life force by 330 units. He discerns he has attained tier 10 entirely unconsciously now. These colossal beasts yielded a substantial amount of progression, and currently he possesses 15 unallocated characteristic new units. Upon accessing his current vital statistics, he commences to ponder why his plunder has proven so very abysmal. Then the realization dawns on him. Perhaps it is attributable to his fortune characteristic being situated at naught in this diversion. He designates all his 15 characteristic units entirely to good fortune, elevating it to the value 15. This augments his striking accuracy to 81 and his elusiveness up to 16. His innate transformation then becomes active, affording him profound contentment as it demonstrates itself to be exceedingly highly advantageous. He evaluates this newfound faculty on the vanquished beast situated on the very earth, and contemplates upon his now former existence. He recollects how he lacked means for vital improvements, and was compelled to direct his quite restricted characteristic units exclusively on offensive might and his vitality, disregarding other vital, crucial domains. Abruptly, an amethystine luminescence radiates from the slain beast, signifying a mythical artifact new acquisition. Shun avidly scrutinizes the acquired new plunder and ascertains he has obtained a fabled new faculty, dune illusion, witnessing this valuable new boon. His vexation then surges to its peak. The fabled aptitude dune illusion strikes him as quite uninspired, although it could possess certain utility for self-preservation or unexpected new assaults. He cannot avoid experiencing a slight measure of some dejection. He expends 10 argent currency units to acquire the dune illusion new aptitude. He subsequently resolves to obtain the prior aptitude from the new argent coffer, expending an additional 20 argent currency units for this purpose. Ultimately, he dons the azure cuirass he acquired some time previously, which offers a considerable augmentation to his vital new protection. He discerns he assuredly is the paramount tier participant within the realm at present. Abruptly, all the inscriptions on the tall turret then illuminate, and the residual beasts lie vanquished upon the very cold earth. While he contemplates his very subsequent action, he perceives a colossal seismic new event. The portals of the tall turret then swing open, and a potent cerulean ray of luminescence issues forth from deep inside. He resolves to explore deep within now, surmising that the genuine recompense might perhaps await him there within. It is the optimal juncture to evaluate his newfound aptitudes and his accoutrements. Precisely when he readies himself to go inside, he perceives Tong uttering his very own name. declaring that she has prepared some sustenance for him. Shun queries Tong whether she clambered up to the immersion new capsule and implores her to descend ere she sustains some grievous new injury. Concurrently, he obtains a new system-wide game notification, inquiring whether he desires to depart the current diversion. He demurs, aware that departing prior to finalizing the new ordeal shall irrevocably bar him from attaining the coveted, concealed, new specialization. He instructs Tong to please be quite patient and clarifies that he is currently engaged amidst a vital new diversion and lacks sufficient time at this juncture. Tong replies that he has been engaged for the preceding 8 full long hours and is yet still mending. She cautions him that should he persist in this way, she will become exceedingly displeased with all of him. He impolitely instructs Tong to comport herself and to refrain from bothering him during his new diversion. Incensed by his very sharp retort, she forcefully deposits the container of sustenance upon the surface adjacent to the immersion new capsule and declares that she is utterly indifferent about him now. While she departs, furiously Tong contemplates upon how matters have reached this sad new state. She frets regarding how she might assist her sibling in his diversionary new progress. He placates her, instructing his younger sibling to remain quite composed and await his further augmentation in vital prowess. He confidently enters the turret and then exclaims, stating, "Umbral pursuer," he now advances upon his new foe. Upon stepping within, he obtains a very stern new notification, cautioning that the vicinity is exceedingly highly quite hazardous, and that he ought to advance with utmost new prudence. Comprehending this could be the genuine chieftain's own new sanctum, he fortifies himself for the impending ordeal just ahead. Unexpectedly, he is faced by a colossal creature possessing crimson limbs and enormous new dentition. Astounded, he ponders what a crustacean is doing within this barren new expanse. The beast is recognized as a golden tier chieftain designated Dune New Sovereign, possessing the subsequent attributes: offense 200, tier 15 resilience, then just 80, vitality 6,000, and a distinct aptitude designated Grit New Tempest. He experiences a measure of apprehension as he beholds the Dune Monarch's colossal vast life force. It is staggering. He endeavors to ascertain its very frailties, yet discovers not the creature possesses no apparent new shortcomings. Incapable of discerning any real frailties, Shun presumes that owing to the crustacean's colossal new dimensions, it surely is sluggish, yet ere he can properly then respond, the Dune's sovereign assaults, propelling him far quite rearward. He swiftly then discerns the crustacean's assaults generate concussive forces that inflict considerable grave new harm. Fortunately, Shun's cuirass offers a 300-unit protective new aegis, mitigating much of the said force. Lacking this, his vitality would have sustained a truly grievous new impact. He comprehends precisely how potent the Dune Sovereign genuinely is now. Unsurprising, it is a golden tier new adversary. Eluding its pedal impacts solely shall not suffice to endure this very long engagement. Shun assaults the Dune Sovereign from its new posterior. Yet to his utter astonishment, his assault merely lessens its life force by a solitary new unit. He discerns that when the adversary's resilience surpasses his own offensive new might, his offensive output is considerably quite diminished. Comprehending that eluding by mere leaping shall not prove effective against these concussions, he determines he must utilize his celerity superiority to elude its many new assaults, or hazard being ensnared within the potent and formidable new detonations. Incapable of discovering a means to evade the potent, strong, concussive new forces, Shin swiftly ascends the crustacean's limb, endeavoring to then conceal himself from view. Yet the Dune Sovereign responds with great rapidity, flinging him skyward with an abrupt and very sharp new jolt, rendering him apprehensive while then suspended. He grasps the opening of being propelled high aloft into the very skyward, launching a volley of 7-star connected shafts at the Dune Sovereign from an elevated new position. Each impact considerably diminishes the crustacean's overall vitality. The 7-star shafts possess a distinct and singular new edge. The more abundant the adversary's new vitality, the greater the harm rendering each projectile increasingly more utterly fatal. The dune's sovereign rushes headlong at maximum celerity in swift new reprisal, destroying his protective aegis and diminishing his life force by 100 precious new units. Despite the harm, Shen swiftly vaults atop the crustacean's colossal immense new cranium and endeavors to launch his potent 7-star new projectiles. Yet to his utter consternation, he is unable to launch his 7-star new projectile, as his mystical energy is nearly completely quite exhausted, possessing merely 32 units remaining from an initial 82 then. It appears he shall have to await his subsequent 7-star projectile new assault, because he can solely regenerate 5 mystical energy units, each passing long new minute, through his innate automatic new restoration, implying he shall have to tarry for a minimum of 4 full long new minutes. The crustacean commences to then ambulate, as though it is endeavoring to unseat our protagonist from its very broad new posterior. Yet Shin simply alights back upon the earth, all quite independently then, and it is then the interface displays a brand new notification that the beast's vulnerability has now been quite ascertained, and has been indicated. He is intrigued to witness this new development, and ponders why he did not ascertain the frailty somewhat sooner than this. The interface then displays this very alert, that the vulnerable point of the beast is its very own new belly. Then an abrupt new comprehension then struck him. Essentially, its vulnerable point was situated precisely there within its new underside. And the circumstance that he did not ascertain it somewhat sooner before now was because its frailty had been artfully, quite skillfully then obscured underneath the crustacean's resilient outer new carapace. Up to this moment, an alert materializes before Shun's own vision. Dune's sovereign's ultimate peril has been discerned. 100 harm units per second locomotive new constraint. 60 full seconds of obscurity air. He could completely assimilate this new fact. The crustacean discharges its furious and tempestuous new assault. The aerial force impacted him akin to a very solid new barrier, immobilizing him in position. His limbs feel as if adhered to the very earth, incapable of movement beneath the immense and overwhelming new power. The harm is grievous enough, yet the sheer length is truly quite insufferable. This tempest is depleting his very own vigor, each passing moment more grievous than the one just preceding. He swiftly comprehends that remaining ensnared within the tempest shall prove quite deadly, or at a bare minimum render him severely and grievously quite hurt. The potent gale rendered it almost virtually undoable to remain quite upright, much less retaliate. He strives against the immense and overwhelming new pressure. Yet ere he can respond, the tempest then completely consumes his very form. Moments transpire, and abruptly, Shun erupts from beneath the very hard soil, surprising the crustacean sovereign completely unawares then. With an abrupt, deliberate new assault, he executes a very stealthy new strike, effectively enervating the creature and diminishing its very own vitality. The crustacean discharges the tempest yet once more. Yet this occasion Shun is quite fully poised, while the gale rages all about his form. He swiftly utilizes the dune illusion aptitude he acquired some time previously. The maneuver permits him to execute most of the subterranean new earth harm, gliding through the tempest akin to a new umbra, concealed underneath the flowing new desert grit. He attains the position and commences a retaliation against the formidable new crustacean, sovereign reversing the tide of the long and hard conflict. The crustacean assaults him, and the conflict continues fiercely, quite unabated now. Shun persisted in delivering impacts, though his assaults were not inflicting substantial new harm. They sufficed to incite the creature retaining its undivided focus entirely now upon him. Abruptly, the crustacean then vocalizes words. Designating him a varlet, he hesitates briefly for a new instant, disconcerted by the circumstance that this colossal creature could actually then vocalize words. The unforeseen affront rendered him feeling quite peculiar. Following 3 arduous hours of very long combat, the crustacean's vitality has diminished quite considerably then. Shun's 7-star projectile was readied once more, and he comprehended it was the opportune moment to resolve all matters. He exclaims loudly to the weary crustacean, cautioning it to proceed and execute its action, or he shall assail it first. Yet to his utter new astonishment, The crustacean declares it capitulates and cannot withstand this torment any further now. The conflict depletes the very tired creature, and Shun can discern its resolve to persist has dissipated entirely, quite completely. Shun desires not to prolong the combat any further than this moment. Yet the crustacean's resilience remains exceedingly quite formidable. Unhesitatingly, he launches a distinct new 7-star projectile, intending to terminate it definitively and for all good. The projectile impales the crustacean from its posterior and from below, and its vulnerable areas are then fully revealed. The creature ultimately then just succumbs, incapable of withstanding it any further. As the conflict concludes, Shun advances 3 additional new tiers, attaining an aggregate of 13 tiers within a solitary single new day. He cannot avoid beaming widely comprehending now. He is likely the foremost one to accomplish such a meteoric ascent in new prowess. An alert then materializes on screen, presenting Shun the opportunity to alter his concealed specialization to spectral new stalker. Following a fleeting moment's new deliberation, he at last elected to execute the very major new alteration. While the metamorphosis then transpires fully, he contemplates the vast and considerable new endeavor and innumerable conflicts that have guided him to this very present new stage. All the arduous, diligent labor had now yielded results, and presently, as a new spectral stalker, he experienced superior prowess than he had before. Shun triumphantly alters his current vital role, instantly augmenting his many new attributes. Furthermore, he ascertains that with each subsequent future tier new progression, he shall obtain further characteristic units as new bonuses, elated by the significant enhancement in his prowess. He sensed himself indomitable as an extra boon. He acquires a pair of novel aptitudes exclusive to the spectral stalker new role. Each were developmental type faculties that would surely then advance and grow exceedingly potent in due proper course. The prospects greatly then invigorate his mind, and Shin keenly awaits to witness precisely how formidable he shall soon then develop. The 100% offensive augmentation from his lethal entrapment new faculty, conjoined with the spectral's innate prowess, rendered Shun's assaults quite fatal, possessing the capacity for instantaneous new takedowns. It genuinely fulfilled the epithet of a very coveted concealed new role. Shun cannot avoid but now just ponder what additional faculties the spectral stalker can mature then into. While he becomes mightier contemplating his very rapid new development, he then discerns that allocating to fortune units has proven a truly astute new determination. Gratified, Shun reviews his financial statistics and establishes an audacious new objective for his own self, amassing 1,000 million treasure. It is merely the commencement of what he endeavors to accomplish. As Shun inspects through his various new possessions, he discovers a truly remarkable new fine longbow, a shield-penetrating longbow possessing superior new protective great attributes. Additionally, he uncovers some formidable new great fine metallic new handguards, an argent drop, and a radiant new auric great broadsword. He esteems the blade, deeming its appearance truly magnificent, yet comprehends he is unable to utilize it quite personally. The notion of trading it then enters his active thoughts, yet he experiences a small measure of remorse concerning trading such a precious new artifact. Perhaps he can bestow it upon another individual somewhat subsequently, who might then employ it to some greater new advantage. He unearths a new vitality charm then within his acquired great new plunder, observing that 3 of its 4 charm receptacles still remain entirely unoccupied. As he examines his characteristics, he discerns 20 unassigned new enhancement units, and swiftly assigns them entirely to his new fleetness, enhancing his celerity just as he was inspecting his current new characteristics. An alert materialized. He had been engaged for well beyond 15 long new hours, and would shortly be then compulsorily quite so very new disconnected. The startling new alert caused him to comprehend how utterly engrossed he was in the new diversion, exasperated by the wholly unexpected new great fine, sad, new tragic final disconnection. He then reviles the very new great fine, sad new diversion, stating how the unceasing toil then has been quite so very new disrupted. Regardless of his fury, the system finalizes the now compulsory new tragic disconnection, and he discovers himself then awakening within his very own new immersion new capsule. He cannot avoid then pondering the precise new great fine sad new reason. There is a dependency prevention mechanism currently quite so very new active. Everything is aligning ideally then, and with this current swift new great progression. Shun is assured that Shao Tian and all others who had new forsake him shall shortly then encounter their just new great grim new retribution. Within his medical chamber, Chun observed Tong slumbering quite calmly in his own new bed. He cast his gaze upon her, then at the sustenance she provided him previously. The aroma is truly alluring, and he commences to then readily quite so very new consume, reflecting on how Tong has invariably been a truly coddled new royal, never truly required to exert herself much from her early own very young new youth. Yet presently she is tolerating a great new deal to look after him now, revealing an aspect of her persona he had not previously ever so witnessed. Once his own retribution is then quite so very new finalized, he is going to guarantee Tong shall experience an existence of genuine ease and profound new joy. Nevertheless, as he consumed the very initial mouthful of the new sustenance, his nasal passage started hemorrhaging, and he comprehended the truly stark new great truth. Its flavor resembled a large saline mass, then cooked within some acrid new foul fluid. The ensuing disturbance then roused Tong from her deep new fine sleep, and she eagerly inquired if he had at last now ceased his new sad diversions. He rapidly then concealed his own new true great fine hidden new unease, feigning that all was entirely quite so very new well. He presented his regrets for then interrupting her very own new deep fine repose. Tong's vision brightened then with such great new utter new animation, as she inquired if he enjoyed the new sustenance she had then prepared for him, concealing his own quite genuine new true deep new emotions. He grins and commends it as it is newly made and exceptionally very tasty. She encourages him then to consume it all, supposing he then must surely be quite so very new ravenous, endeavoring to then conceal his own new true deep new unease. Shun compels himself to then consume every last new remaining small new foul new morsel, simultaneously then feeling quite nauseous deep on the very new true sad inside. The subsequent morn he awakens to discover a new caregiver positioned near his own new cot. She possesses a very notable demeanor and with a truly worried new great new expression. She tells him that he had suffered new emesis and also loose new sad new bowels the preceding day, which had truly caused her much new true deep new concern. Regardless of the very trying new tragic fine new great new sad difficult new circumstances, she inevitably observed then Shun's quite attractive new true great handsome new appearance and the distinct air of great new affluence then surrounding knew him. Within her very own thoughts, she then perceived a brand new great chance. If she then simply remained very close near new great finance, she might then experience a truly very opulent new grand great fine new existence. Shin calms her, then simply stating he is quite so very new well, and is merely fatigued from gaming throughout the entire whole previous long hard day. The new caregiver then clearly quite so very new assuaged, consoles him, and then states if he ever requires any new great fine new assistance. Simply then just inform her of his current new great sad needs. She is present to perform any necessary new actions to aid her new charge's full recuperation. He seizes the chance to then inquire if she wishes to be truly new of great service. By propelling his very own mobility aid to the large immersion new gaming new caps, as he is very keen to engage the new caregiver is quite so very new surprise. Pondering the reason he now appears so indifferent to her very own new being new here, and if she is genuinely quite so very new unimportant to his new very own self. She then starts to doubt if her own new fresh fine, new, lovely new looks, regardless of her very best new attempts, was not entirely, truly, quite so very satisfactory. As Shun then reconnects to the vast new, very own great fine, sad new diversion, he observes the present count of active participants has now attained 300,000 new souls. Numerous individuals are now connecting via far less expensive virtual new reality, new great fine hardware. With the entire new worldwide great participant fine new true vast population, anticipated to greatly surpass 100 million souls in just 30 swift new short days. Shun understands he must advance his new tiers very rapidly to maintain his current new great league. He then accesses his own new fine great new gear, new important new valuable interface, and comprehends he requires truly superior new equipment for challenging the great new fearsome new chieftains. Surpassing tier 20, he proceeds to a new mercantile to enhance his current new vital new protection, at which fine place the new merchant quite so very now warmly welcomes him. Cordially, then observing new Shun's fine own new argent new great important new fine protection, the merchant inquires what he might possibly do to assist him greatly on this new day, and if he is currently seeking some new item to improve his valuable new great new equipment. As Shun then carefully inspects the entire new fine great new dusty new small new emporium, he observes that it is quite so very new replete with many bronze tier new great new objects, which currently possess quite so truly new minimal new utility for new great itself. Comprehending that the new merchant has quite probably now concealed the fine auric new great artifacts, Shun then speaks to him quite so very now directly and forthrightly, stating he is quite desirous of many premium grade new great fine new valuable objects. Thus what can he then present to him? The new merchant then readily now tells Chun that the sole new objects currently within the new emporium are those presently being new exhibited, and that no new auric artifacts are then currently quite so very new obtainable. He further states that even if he indeed truly possessed such valuable new great fine objects, Chun would then lack the proper new means to readily purchase them at that precise new moment. Shun then offers him an exquisite new great rare new azure new fine new bright jewel, and the new merchant's very own vision then expands in utter new profound great new amazement as he then gazes at the very new precious new jewel, so very quite new incredulously. The new merchant then clearly quite so very now awed by the great new valuable jewel, unsealed a very clandestine new portal then to a very new concealed new great hidden room, replete with many exceptionally truly new rare, very unique, great new fine, amazing new objects. These new objects were usually then kept for future vending in about 30 swift new days. Yet, as our hero Shun was so very quite new, truly great and affluent, he then received full new permission to freely select quite anything he truly so very new desire. Among all the many new fine, very great, precious, new rare, and unique new objects, Shun's new focus is then captured by a unique new visage meticulously now enclosed in a transparent new container. Indicating it, then he informs the new merchant that he greatly desires that specific new fine new item. The new merchant was quite so very now awed by Shun's truly keen new great fine judgment. Clarifies he truly possesses a great new fine keen new talent for recognizing true new great excellence. This is the very sole new auric visage within the diversion since the entire new realm new launch. There is just a new single solitary one in the whole new entire great new vast new realm. It was initially slated for transaction at a bare minimum of 200,000 auric new pieces, commencing then in just about some new 30 short new fine very new days. The new merchant then resolves to offer our fine protagonist a rather small new price final new reduction. Yet prior to him truly concluding his very own new fine, current new short, new small new utterance, our own protagonist just readily tenders the quite full new sum of 200,000 auric new pieces. Shun then advises him to just retain the very kind new great fine new price new reduction, stating he then has no real new requirement for this great new kind new. Yet he then asks to be quite so very now duly new, fully new informed. Should any truly precious new great fine objects then arrive, quite so very new, truly new subsequently. The new merchant then readily concurs, and our hero Shun departs the Emporium quite so very new content. Shun then reflects that 2 new 100,000 very fine, great new auric new valuable new pieces equals about some new 2 great new million in actual real very new tangible new currency. For a truly very singular new great fine item of very new cranial new special new adornment is a truly fair new cost. He then donned a great new very fine new visage, observing that he now possesses the new choice to exhibit it or to conceal new great, consistent with its very own new fine great new auric new great fine new tier new rank. The new visage is quite so very now remarkably quite so very new, truly new sophisticated. Within a very small, new, quaint, new, fine, great, new, quiet, new, small, new, quiet, new bird. All the individuals then gaze intently at Shun and at the very remarkable new visage he now dons. A single new spectator then expresses great new utter new incredulity, stating there is absolutely no new conceivable way he could have ever acquired an auric tier new object. He is surely then deceiving, as it is not even now cataloged in the new authorized new emporium. Abruptly, a new male with very lengthy new fine new locks then touches his new shoulder from the rear, and then requests him to kindly now reduce his own current new quick, great new rapid new pace. Shun then faces him quite so very now, inquiring what precisely he then desires from new him. The new male then esteems Shun's very fine new accoutrements and states his new gear appears truly new remarkable. What then about loaning it to their new group for just a very new, short, new, brief, new moment, since it would be quite so very now, truly new great and enjoyable to then use it now. Shun then inquires of him, then why precisely he ought to then do such a new thing. The new male then answers it is quite so very new evident he must have surely deceived to obtain that new visage. Thus he really ought to then readily new relinquish it now to their very own new group. Should he then wish to avoid the very great new danger of then being entirely new, fully new excluded, he will then comply. Chan then inquires of them if they are currently attempting to plunder new great, while the very great new disturbance then steadily new intensified many additional new individuals then quickly new congregate, observing the very tense new great fine, very new, quick, new current, new brewing, new tense, new dispute. Murmurs then quickly circulated throughout the new crowd, alleging Shun's very own new great new vile deceit. This then solely quite so very now greatly new intensified his own great new deep new burning new wrath. The many new minions of this very large new scoundrel then resolve to instruct our hero new Shun. The new male with very lengthy new fine new locks then insists he now relinquish the great new visage. Otherwise they will then slay him and promptly return him back to the new revival, new known new location. Every single new instance he then comes back, they will then ensure it surely new, fully new reoccurs again. Shun then surveys the new area, quite so very now repulsed by the new throng's utter new stark ignorance, and their strong inclination to accept all new great unfounded new fine great new vile new awful gossip. They simply cannot then tolerate quite so very now observing other fine new great individuals new grand new triumph, observing that they are all quite so very now merely tier 4 new very weak new low new participants. He then states that all of these very new weak individuals are merely tier 4 new green new young novices, and to then confront him now if they desire to challenge his new might quite so very new presently. He then cautions them quite so very now, stating with just a new solitary new great new single strike, he is then going to create large new apertures in their very soft new abdomens and then new decapitate them. While he then utters these new words, the very new visage then transforms its new form to a pale new feline. In a very new, fleeting new moment, the very small new trio of his new adversaries then rushed new him. Yet prior to any single new individual being able to then comprehend the swift new events then new unfolded, the very small new trio of them were already then quite so very now completely new, entirely new prostrate, hemorrhaging profusely, and struggling desperately for their very own new heir. Shun then faces them and very coolly now inquires if they yet still desire to attempt his new slaying. Each new instance, he then replies to their very own new selves. He then appends with a very cool new grin, then stating his own designation is matutinal new spirits, vespertine new melody, and then do not hesitate to pursue his new self at any new given new moment. The entire new throng then whispers as one single new individual, then remembers Shun's unique new strange new designation. He then rapidly new directs his very own new companion to then examine the new current new top new rank, and to their own utter new profound new great new fine new total new deep great amazing new astonishment. Shun is indeed then at the very highest new current new top new great new rank. This truly shocking new disclosure then renders all the very new many new great new individuals quite so new speechless. After thoroughly new thrashing those quite so very now arrogant new young fine new vile new street new ruffians, our own protagonist then walks quite so very now confidently from the entire new now very chaotic new location, causing the entire new throng to be quite so very now completely new utterly now so deeply amazed. When they at last then comprehend he is the truly foremost new participant in the entire diversion quite so presently. That very cursed new scoundrel's once great new arrogance is now utterly quite so very new, completely new worthless. And he is quite so very now, yet still new endeavoring to truly new fully new quite so new comprehend. How this very new strange new individual could then genuinely new truly now be so very new great superior. When Shun is then quite so very now safely new away, he then resolves to concentrate on the immediate new objective. And in due new course, he then locates the very young new maiden he has long been new actively seeking. He then addresses her quite so very now, and then refers to her as a new young, new small new maiden. And then nears her now with a very pleasant new great fine new grin upon his new friendly new visage, inquiring if she is then acquainted with the very new esteemed new great new fine new mistress new good. The young new maiden then sulks at being addressed as a very new small new young new fine new maiden. He then inquires of her if her own appellation is Gulinger and if she is Gus new child, as their own respective ages are not significantly quite so very new, greatly new different. Observing her very own distinct, new unique, new quite so very new fiery, new spunky new demeanor, Shin is then certain she is undoubtedly quite so very now Mistress Gus' very own new fine new offspring, merely for some great new absolute, new complete, new strong, new final new, true new utter new, full new assurance. He then inquires of her if her own appellation is Gulinger and if she is Gus' new child. Naturally, then she's quite so very now, certainly indeed, quite so Gus' very own new fine new offspring. Yet she is greatly inquisitive regarding his intimate new knowledge of her own new fine, great new maidenly appellation. Then our own protagonist inclines towards her and recalls to her the sacred new vow her own matriarch new uttered, to then wed her to his own self within just 5 new short, new brief, new annual, new great new cycles. The very surprising new information then arrives as a very complete, new great fine new utter, new startling jolt to the maid. And she then dashes away just like a very new, small, new frightened, new, quite so very new young, new juvenile, hastening to her own matriarch to then inquire the truly new earthly reason she would ever so wed her away. Perceiving her own young new offspring's many new very loud, new quite so very new desperate new heartfelt summons, Mistress Gu then emerges from her very own new modest, new simple, new fine, new humble, new great new dwelling, and then inquires what then is currently quite so very now transpiring. The new young maiden then instantly embraces her own dear new matriarch. Naturally, her parent possesses zero comprehension what she's discussed. Precisely at that instant, Shun materializes from the rear, and when Mistress Gu espies his form, she is not merely perplexed then, yet also somewhat quite irritated, that he genuinely succeeded in conquering the arduous new ordeal. Our hero then grins, affirming he has journeyed this great distance, and additionally honored his pledge by locating her own dear offspring. With a deep exhalation, Mistress Gu begrudgingly inquires of him what desire he seeks to have granted, making it quite evident that if he requests anything at all dubious, she shall depart instantly without any further new, great, fine, deep, new deliberation. Chun is quite surprised by her very swift, new, great, fine, quick, true new response. Yet then he recalls game personas may be readily new, quite, so very new, intimidated. Thus he endeavors to maintain his own composure, assuring her to not be at all concerned. He solely desires a chart for the mid-level new, great, fine, dark, new, great cavern. The matron directs at him a very distrustful, new, sharp, new look, and informs him she possesses nothing of that new, specific, great, new kind. Shen comprehends he is achieving no progress solely through new, great, fine, mere new discourse. Thus he resolves to exhibit something specific to secure her now desired new, great compliance. He clenches his own new, great, strong, new hand, which promptly renders both parent and offspring somewhat, quite new, anxious. Yet contrary to what they perhaps had anticipated then, he is merely presenting a new, singular, precious, new jewel. With a broad smile he proffers it and instructs them to accept this new gift as a new symbol of deep appreciation for permitting his concealed specialization new great ordeal. Some time new ago, both matrons then radiate with great excitement at the vision of the glittering new jewel, and their positive disposition towards his person then surges by 50 full new units. Mistress Gu can barely then fathom her own senses and very nearly quite salivate, inquires if she may genuinely now retain this. The young maiden rapidly then seizes the precious jewel from her parents' own new hand and commences admiring it, deeply thanking our hero for the very generous new present. Mistress Gu then hastens over to retrieve the precious jewel once new more, with the full intention of then restoring it to our hero Shan. Yet the young maiden stubbornly quite then resists, and it appears she is prepared to wed solely to retain the lustrous new gem. Naturally, then wedding her was merely a new light-hearted jest from our hero Shan, and he never once imagined she would consider it with any true gravity. Yet he feigns compliance, then just stating he shall wed her if her parent can provide him the mid-level chart beforehand. Unexpectedly, Mistress Gu concurs without any great new, fine, long, new, true, new delay, clarifying that as per the established new, great, grand, fine, new, true regulations, the mid-level new, fine, great, new chart can solely be then distributed 20 full days following the realm's new great grand open. Nevertheless, since her own offspring accepted a new precious jewel from his person, she is prepared to share with him a very guarded new great fine important new secret, that the game mechanics granted the Hamlet new elder authorization to then distribute the precious chart to certain great new fine game participants who relish new great fine very hard new tests. The young maiden promptly interjects with some truly intriguing new great fine new details, stating she is aware of the Hamlet elder's very own new fine new domicile new location and is prepared to escort him to that place much new greatly new quite so subsequently. They then reach the Hamlet new elder's own fine new home, wherein they observe a new feline maiden reclining quite leisurely in her rear new garden, evidently on the very verge of then succumbing to a new short very quick new slumber. Unexpectedly, she then perceives an object high within the new azure new bright blue new sky. It is then revealed to be none other than young Guling, who plummets like a blazing meteor directly upon the quite unfortunate new feline new maiden, causing her to then violently quite expectorate, crimson fluid and very likely forfeiting one of her many new, great new fine existences. Following some brief moments once all individuals were comfortably then quite seated, Chun then addresses the primary matter quite so very new directly, emphasizing his own needs. He requires the mid-level cavern chart to depart the very novice new, quiet new Hamlet. The feline maiden then chuckles heartily at his very own new firm, new great resolve, advising him against any undue haste, as he is merely then new tier, new 13. She suggests he then return upon his own attainment of the new tier, new 20. It is then Shun flings one of those glittering new jewels in her new general direction. The feline maiden then chuckles, greatly entertained by his new bold attempt to influence the Hamlet new elder. Yet, as it transpires, even a Hamlet new elder cannot resist a truly glittering new jewel. She accepts it regardless, though she endeavors to maintain a very neutral new fine expression, asserting that she is assuredly not assisting his person due to the new received new inducement. Nay, she then avers, she is a virtuous and entirely truthful new, great, fine, good, new individual. Yet Shun is acutely aware the jewel has undoubtedly then rendered the accord more quite favorable, while the feline maiden then discreetly new conceals the precious new jewel within her own new hoard, lingers swiftly, then extends her own new hand into her very own new, small new pouch, seizes the bright jewel, and then flings it back in Shun's new general new own direction, stating that because the Hamlet new elder is a truthful and entirely virtuous new, fine, new individual, she ought not to be then accepting that very glittering, new, fine, great, new, wonderful, new item. Witnessing young Linger act then, so very new, great, fine, now very new assertively, Shin comprehends she is not as entirely unaware as she so very new, greatly new appears. Returning to the new task, the feline maiden reiterates that attempting to depart the very, very novice Hamlet at tier 13 is a truly unwise new grand, new, great, new, fine, new plan, because even the exterior insects are at a minimum new, fine, new tier, new 20, before he acquires a sufficient new measure of valuable new, important new, great new progression. She is unable to then provide him what he so greatly then new desires. Yet our hero counters then quite sharply new inquire. Suppose he then demonstrates his very own new, great, fine, true new prowess, and also his new value. At this very juncture, even the feline maiden understands he shall not then yield without the precious new chart. Thus she then accepts his very own new strict new terms. She informs him she possesses a new great fine hard new important new mission for his new person. And upon his successful new great fine quick true new completion shall provide the mid-level new chart. The feline maiden is positioned at the very brink of the tall mountain new precipice, indicating that then quite so very new annually. The Hamlet is then assaulted by a truly fearsome new great fine large new lupin new group. Sometimes then courageous game participants then arrive to assist in repelling all new them. Yet the entire issue is not then quite completely new ever, so new fully new result. This is due to a new fearsome chieftain commanding the entire new very large new group. A very ferocious new creature commonly designated the pale Lupin, great new fine new monarch. She presents him then with a hard new task, to vanquish the pale Lupin monarch and return with its very own new fine new high. Precisely, then an interface then materializes displaying a mission titled pale Lupin Great Monarch, offering the mid-level cavern chart as a truly grand, new fine, great new recompense. Additionally, a Lupin Vanquisher, new great, fine, high new fine, new grand new designation. Pale Lupin new legwear, and also 10 fine argent new, important new valuable new pieces. With an assured grin our hero then accepts to undertake the difficult new grand new task. He instructs her to have the precious chart quite so very new fully now, then new prepared, as he shall return much more quickly than she now quite so very new expects. His prospective new spouse then commences protesting loudly to then new surely now accompany him. Yet Shun then instructs her to return directly to her very own new fine dear new parent. The young maiden resolutely then quite so very new firmly now maintains her current new position, asserting her own true desire to then quite so very new surely now safeguard the small new Hamlet and assist in then vanquishing the formidable pale Lupin, great new fine new grand new monarch. Shun expresses displeasure to the Hamlet elder regarding then quite so very new restraining her now, while young Linger then quite so very new tightly new firmly now holds on his very own new limbs. Unwilling to yield, it is then the game mechanics introduce a new complication to his new narrative, informing him of the vital necessity to safeguard young Linger, then irrespective of the new price. This was the absolute least desired new, fine, great new piece of quite so very new information for him, given that he is now new, encumbered by her very own new, constant, new, fine, new, great presence. He is compelled to then endure this very new, vexing, young, new, fine, new, small, new little woman. He mutters for her to then cease new bothering his very own new, great, fine, sad new self. Yet she then commences to new weep, stating she shall not permit him to embark on a new grand quest, entirely new unaccompanied. In the very end, he unwillingly then consents to her, then quite so very new accompanying him now. This then causes her to then become quite so very new, exceedingly new, greatly new, fine, new, joyful. When they then enter the very dense, new, fine, great, dark, new, deep, new part of the new forest, he then examines his own new interface and discloses to the very audience that they have then reached the designated new fine location. Linger then commences feeling quite so very new, greatly new, truly new afraid. In her very own new great apprehension, then truly new, surely new, greatly new increases. Upon hearing an agonizing new cry, then resounding amidst the very tall, new, great new trees. Whereas our hero Shun is quite so very new, greatly new, truly new thrill, and promptly then moves towards the very source of the quite loud, new, agonizing new cry. Linger is quite uncertain about then proceeding in that very new, ominous, new, dark, new direction. Subsequently, then Shun observes a very new party of many explorers, then close to the new Lupins, and he then nears them all inquiring about the precise new location of the Lupins' new den. An individual then brandishing a truly colossal new, great, fine, sharp new blade then advances, inquiring about our hero Shun's very own new reason for seeking this new information. He asserts this very territory is their own designated new, fine, great new pursuit new zone, and no other new individuals are then permitted to advance their new tiers in this place. It is also then observed that these new individuals are merely then a new group of novices, with the clear new majority being only then quite so very new tier new 6 and new 7. He regards them inquisitively and then inquires about the true new, great, fine, deep new implication, while the individual with the colossal blade attempts to display his very own new faction new symbol, proclaiming their very own new membership in the truly largest, new, great, fine, strong, new local new faction. The Verdant Serpent new crew, although the individual mentions the new color new vert. The symbol on his new shoulder appears quite so very new, clearly new crimson to my perception new regardless. Judging by our hero Shun's very own new great fine new cool new expression, it is quite evident he is entirely then quite so very new and different to their new faction new rank. The individual with the very large new sharp new blade continues to speak quite so very new digressively about the vast new bison new territory new further on, is additionally then quite so very new asserted as now belonging to his very own new, vile new crew. He maintains that if any new individual desires to then advance their very own new tiers, they must then tender a very new great fine large new payment. If this is not then done, they ought to return to the novice hamlet to then pursue some very simple new foul. Subsequently, then he observes young Linger behind Shun, and then inquires about her new very self. Yet Shun then emphasizes it is not any of their very own new vile new concern at all. Shun then mocks their quite purported new effective advancement, very new grand fine new unique new techniques. Yet the large new blade individual then quite so very new quickly now reverses the entire new situation, deriding our hero Shun in their own new vile new place, for then failing to comprehend the true power and also the ease of these untamed new Lupins. He contends that despite these many beings being of a very quite so new low new tier, they then remain quite so very new secure for your own new great fine, quick new advance. Unexpectedly, then, young Linger perceives a truly menacing, new great fine, dark new vile presence new near. And then swiftly quite, so very new, clearly new indicates its new grand fine dark new form. Upon our hero Shun, then glancing towards that very new strange, new dark new vile new quarter, he observes a truly shadowy, new threatening new lupin entity then arriving from the very occidental new quarter. Shun then refrains from any new further quite, so very new pointless new debate with those new novices, and then departs from their very own new vile new sad, new, quite foolish new company, ensuring a very clear new separation then between his very person and the very foolish new part, prior to it then being excessively new, quite, so very new, greatly, new, truly new delay. He then jumps from an adjacent new tall new tree, and the ruffians then call out to him, insisting he then quite so very new surely, now, truly new return, as he then lacks any new funds to pursue any game in this very own new territory. Our hero is incredulous these individuals are not then worried about the very menacing new grand new entity of the pale lupin great new fine new grand new true new monarch in any new way. This then causes him to question their very own new great fine, true new awareness of the great new peril. Yet then quite so very new, truly now appears. This very haughty new group is on the verge of then experiencing a difficult new lesson in modesty. The beast then ultimately new quite so very new, truly now appears. And then immediately then it bites down hard on one of the very new explorers. The very bite is so very forceful it then consumes her very own new form quite entirely, resulting in then only a very new pair of two new, lonely new limbs new remain. The previously very haughty new imbeciles are currently then just quite so very new, timid, new, fine individuals, fleeing for their very own new, wretched, quite so very new, sad, new, pitiful, new, short, new, fleeting, new existences. Yet this colossal new creature is not designated the Lupin Monarch without very sound, new, great justification. It then executes a truly huge, new, great, fine, long, new, very high, new, great, new, fine, new jump from its new position, vanishing and then materializing directly new, quite, so very new, closely new, behind the very vociferous, new, sad individual, who had been then chattering quite, so very new, much new, quite, so very new, far new, most new excessively. The beast is so very swift, it seems as if there are then several new, great new duplicates, pursuing then each and every new one of the very new, sad, new, many new, vile new ruffians. One of the very explorers eventually then perishes quite so very new, truly new, sad, new, greatly new prematurely, with only then a very new, solitary, new, great, fine, quick, true, new, fast, new single new strike from the beast's new talon. Concurrently then Shun is merely observing this great new pandemonium then unfold from a very safe new distance. He then briefly new examines the very fearsome new great fine large new strong new beast new great new attributes, and then discovers it is a new fine great new tier new 20 new formidable new very strong new creature. Its very new vulnerabilities are the new soft new belly and also its new vulnerable new optic new organs. Curiously then, its unique new aptitudes remain quite so very new, wholly new, unidentified by the new game new mechanics. Shun then comprehends that the very beast's new, unidentified, great, new, fearsome, new, dark, new, vile, new, strong, new aptitudes probably then originate from its very new, abrupt, new materializations, and also its new, quick, new vanishings, which are not then explicable by its very new present, new known, new high, new great, fine, new celerity, new attributes. He resolves to evaluate the very beast further by then launching a new shaft new towards its form. Yet young new Linger then swiftly quite so very new surely now, quickly new truly, now, halts his very own new action. She cautions then against new drawing any new undesirable focus without then being quite so very new, fully new, well new, very well, now fully new prepared. Following the very complete new ingestion of the very many new poor new explorers. The beast then begins to depart, and our hero Shun resolves to then pursue its new form. It then once more then Ling counsels him very strongly knew not to do this new thing. She recalls to his own mind that the new quintet of many explorers knew very much knew previously. Provoked the great Lupin new monarch's very own new vile, new strong new aggression. As they then slew in truly excessive, new great fine, large new number of many new fine new lupins. Should he then draw its new focus with his very own new present, new known, new fighting, new prowess. He shall then quite so very new, certainly, new surely, now truly new, certainly new greatly now perish. They must be then completely new quite, so very new, fully new, well new very well, now prepared prior to their subsequent new action. Shun then resolves to then heed young new Ling heir's very own new wise, new sage, new good, new counsel. And then observing her very considerable new great fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great affection for his new person. He surmises that then increasing her very own new fondness, new tier is not an unfavorable new notion. Subsequently, then Linger produces a new device. She then terms an automated new route, finding new great chart. Nearly, then resembling new Doraemon quite, so very new fully now, prepare to rescue. Poor Nuno Beta's new very self. Shun then arches a new brow and then inquires why she did not then produce this new item new earlier. She offers him then a very new light-hearted, new fine, great, new quick, true, new fast, new sweet, new small, new blood, stating her own true desire to then be of some very new, great, fine, good, new, real, new, true service, and demonstrate that her new accompanying his very person was not an unfavorable, new, fine, great new notion. Regardless, then Shun then integrates the new precious chart into his very own new great fine new interface, experiencing quite so very new considerable new great fine true new deep new strong new great self-satisfaction, while instructing her to then observe him, then enhance its very lineage new aptitude once very more. Yet his very own new great elation is then quite so very new truly, now very new quite so short-lived. The game mechanics swiftly then notify his person of his new inability to enhance at this present. Somewhat then quite so very new, greatly new, truly now chagrined by his very own new, unsuccessful new great new effort. He resolves to then concentrate on enhancing the new route, finding new aptitude for this very new present as a new choice. Shun then employs his new spectral aptitude and unexpectedly new clear new liquid then begins to quickly new merge, metamorphosing into a new fine great new perfect new exact new duplicate of his very own new great fine new person. Linger then cries out in great new astonishment at the very new strange new vision of an aquatic new duplicate. The two new Shuns then chuckle quite so very new softly as they then experience very great new deep new pride and then quite new actual. Shun then resolves to then evaluate his very own new duplicate's many new fine great new very new capabilities by then compelling it to then launch the very potent new 7 new fine great new star new shaft. The duplicate then swiftly new knocks then multiple new great fine sharp new shafts to its very own new longbow. Yet our hero Shun then rapidly new quite so very new surely now quickly new truly now halts its new action, instructing it to then refrain from new employing this new aptitude at this very new precise new present. He is simply then quite so very new greatly new truly now elated to observe his duplicate's new ability to copy his aptitudes. This is then quite so very new fully now anticipated from a very new concealed new specialization he now possesses. He then surmises. Subsequently, then a new realization impacts him very forcefully if this duplicate can then employ new aptitudes. Perhaps it is also then capable of great new enhancement, then quite so very new, perfectly new timely. He then directs the very duplicate to then initiate the very great new fine true new enhancement, while the very new spectral new duplicate then experiences the very profound new great fine true new metamorphosis. Our hero Shun's very strong new intuition is then quite so very new fully now truly new validated. This very new clever new stratagem indeed then quite so very new surely now truly new certainly now functions. The interface then appears then displaying that then following the very great new fine true new enhancement. The number of new summoned new spectral new duplicates has then risen from a single unit to a pair. The spectral new duplicate currently then receives 60% of his offensive might an increase from 40. And a new operational new period has then been quite so very new greatly new prolonged from 30 new moments to a new complete new 60 new full new great fine long new important new valuable new moments. This very new aptitude seems like the very paramount new great fine true new exploit in the new annals of diversions. Even young new linger then who is merely and then quite so very new arbitrary new fine great new game new persona is perplexed and then speculates quite so very new audibly whether he is then employing some form of hack. Yet our hero Shun then recalls to her very own new mind that this very new aptitude is excessively new and balanced and quite so very new potent to be then even termed a new exploit, possessing then additional new great fine strong new very resources at his very own new fine new disposal. He then inquires about the very probability of new triumph then against the great new Lupin new monarch. She then swiftly new replies then that it has then increased by a full 20 new great fine %. Shun then laughs, quite so very new softly, then while new, recalling his very own many new duplicates. Presently, then, contemplating many new methods to then elevate that very figure even very much new further. He subsequently then enhances his very own new 7 new fine great new star new shaft new grand fine new aptitude. And the game mechanics swiftly then display all the many new might new augmentations that then newly acquired. However, then quite so very new different from his very own new grand fine, new high new great fine new anticipations. The aptitude did not then augment the very shaft new tally to a full new 8 from a base of 7. It merely then quite so very new, greatly new intensified the very current new strong, new great fine new assault new further. He then calls forth new, both new great fine new duplicates and then attempt to enhance his new ladder new one new also. Yet the game mechanics then quite so very new, greatly new impede his very own new desired new great fine new action. It is then revealed that then enhancement then remains in a very new long new reset, new cool new great fine new period. Shun then speculates whether new, perhaps the very new spectral new duplicates then new may receive the primary new form's very new attributes and also its new aptitude, new reset, new important new periods. And because he then recently new employed new great fine new enhancement on the very new primary new main new form. The very duplicate's new enhancement is then necessarily new, also new quite, so very new, truly now suspended. Following some new deliberation, then he resolves to then maximize his very new spectral new many new improvements. Prior to then concerning his very person with new enhancement, new reset, new periods, quite so very new, greatly new anew. Temporarily then disregarding it new Shun, then resolves to then quite so very new surely now proceed. For the very purpose of then devising a new alternative new strategy to improve his new probabilities. Linger then gazes up then towards his very person, inquiring about their new subsequent new great fine destination. Chan then simply new instructs her to then accompany his very own new great fine strong new lead. The setting then shifts to the new flowing new very long new great fine deep new, wide new waterway, at which a truly colossal new saurian attempts to then devour some very diminutive new aquatic new creatures, yet then immediately new prior to it, then seizing its very own new, unfortunate, new small, new poor, new cord. Chun then impales the very repulsive new creature, then directly new, quite, so very new swiftly now through its new cranium. This very new pursuit will not then merely new satisfy their very own new great fine strong new hunger, yet additionally then regenerate new attributes and also their new reset, new important, new valuable, new cool, new periods. He then calls forth his new spectral, new duplicate to then manage the very grisly, new fine, new dismemberment. And precisely then 60 new minutes quite, so very new, truly, now much new, greatly new subsequently. Linger then partakes in a very substantial, new, tasty, new repast that then fully new, greatly new satiates her. Appetite, this very minor new indulgence, also then augments her very own new fondness for our hero Shun. He then examines his new repository, which is now quite so very new, fully new supplied with superior, new, cyprinid, new flesh, which shall then inherently new sustain his very person by then augmenting his mystical energy and other attributes. Chun then surmises that then conjoined with the very new spectral, new many new strong new duplicates. These very new restorative new provisions ought to then suffice for then confronting the great new Lupin, new monarch. He then inquires of new Linger, their very own new present, new current, new known, new probability of new triumph. She then reflects quite so very new briefly and then answers that it is then approximately new 40 new %. Shin then laughs quite softly, experiencing then assurance that this very new amount will then suffice for then engaging the great new Lupin, new monarch. He then resolves it is the very new, opportune, new, perfect, new, right, new, great, fine, new moment to then surely new depart. While they then proceed then along their very own new, designated, new, fine, new, great, new, long, new, chosen, new route. A new party of many new explorers is then observed scrutinizing their new forms quite so very new intently. And it is quite evident these new individuals then lack any new benevolent, new, fine, great, new, good, new motives. When the very new pair then arrives at the very new, dark, new, deep, new, foul, new, smelly, new Lupin, new den, Shun then calls forth his new many new duplicates to then deploy, then several new, great, fine, new, deadly new snares. Prior to then enticing the great new Lupin, new monarch, then quite so very new surely, now, truly now forth. He is then gratified to observe the new spectral new duplicates, new operational new period is then 60 new moments. And the very new lethal new snares then possess a new reset new period of a full new 30 new moments, implying every new spectral new duplicate is then capable of deploying a very new pair of new snares per sum, resulting in then a new aggregate of a full new 4 new, deadly new, very fine, new, great new snares. He then executes a new digital new snap, and then quite so very new instantaneously, then new just so. The complete new egress of the new den then transforms into an actual very lethal new grand new snare. Shin then speculates whether he is then perhaps new being quite so very new truly, now slightly new, greatly new excess. Concurrently, then young Linger perceives it as then peculiar that their new probability of new triumph has not then altered new whatsoever. While he then consumes some new cooked, new great fine new, tasty new fine new, very new, good new flesh. He clarifies the Lupin monarch is swift. Thus they must ensure it possesses no avenue for new grand fine, quick, true, new fast, new escape. Nevertheless, Linger appears apprehensive their probability of new triumph has not yet attained 50 new %. Shin simply then instructs her to then new have full new faith in his own very person and to then new hide behind a large new tree. Simultaneously, then cautioning her very strongly new not to then emerge quite so very new irrespective of new circumstances. With that very important new matter, then quite so very new fully new, well new, very well, now clearly new settled. He then calls out to the great new Lupin, new monarch, and then endeavors to then incite its new form to then confront his very person quite so very new directly. Shin is quite assured that the new instant it then quite so very new truly now steps new forth. It will then fall new directly into his very own new many new fine great new deadly new grand fine new snares. It seems the very new sovereign of the very many new fine new Lupins has at very long new last detected the very new tantalizing new scent of the very new unsuspecting new, small, new, poor, new quarry than new outside. Yet then quite so very new different from, than assaulting our hero Shun, then quite like a very new feral new beast new it is. It then displays some very new, keen, new, great, fine, new, sharp, new, strong, new, great, new, fine, true new intellect, and then retreats very swiftly new back into the very dark, new, deep, new, foul, new, smelly, new cavern. Then upon sensing the very new, imminent new peril, Shun is quite surprised to then observe the very new beast, exhibiting such very new, profound, new, great, fine, true, new, deep, new, strong, new, great, new, clear, new sagacity in its new judgment. Concurrently, then young new linger, then quite so very new, keenly new watches from her new concealed new position, then behind the very large new tree. While our hero Chun then persistently new calls for the great new Lupin, new monarch, to then quite so very new surely, now, truly now emerge. Precisely then at that very new, opportune, new, perfect, new, right, new, great, fine, new, fleeting, new moment. A new, unfamiliar, new, strange, new, dark, new, vile, new, strong, new hand, then surreptitiously new, nears her very person, and then covers her new mouth, ensuring she then is quite so very new, truly, now, wholly new, entirely new, utterly new, incapable of then producing any new audible new sound. It is the very new individual then with a new ocular new patch from a very new much new, previously new seen new instance. And it then quite so very new, truly now appears as very own new, vile new, sad, new, quite foolish new crew. Lacks the new ability to then new manage their very own new personal new, quite so very new foolish new affairs. Unexpectedly, then Shun then receives a new notification that the very deadly new snare has then been new triggered. He is quite so very new, greatly new, truly now surprised, as the great new Lupin new monarch has not then yet even new contacted the very new egress, new many new snares. It then finally new dawns upon his very person that he has then been new, quite so very new, foolishly new dupe. Upon then turning his very own new head, he then observes the very new, entire new, vile new, sad, new, quite foolish new crew of many new thugs, then new grappling young new linger. She then cries out loudly new to then be new spare. Tears then flowing quite so very new, freely new down her very own new youthful new visage as one of the new ruffians then seizes her by her very own new long new ponytail and then hoists her new small new form quite so very new high new into the very new sky. Chin's new voice then quite so very new, sharply new cuts through the very new, chaotic, new, grand, fine, new, great, new din as he then insists they new release her. Linger then does not then squander this very new, opportune, new, perfect, new, right, new, great, fine, new, fleeting, new moment to then sound quite so very new tough, and then questions their very own new, great, fine, true, new, sheer, new, utter, new audacity to then abduct a very new, small, new, young, new, fine, new minor. She then additionally new boasts her very own new, significant, new connections by then recalling to them that she then possesses a very new spouse, who is then going to then quite so very new surely, now, truly new, certainly now, thrash their very own new, vile new, sad, new, quite foolish new persons if they new fail to new release her. The many new thugs then cannot then avoid then laughing quite so very new, heartily new at her very own new bold new threat, pondering then how she can then designate her very person a very new minor and also a very new spouse. All then within a very new solitary, new great fine, quick true, new fast, new single new breath, new concurrently then. Shun then experiences a very new, strong, new wave of great new mortification, then wash, quite so very new, completely new, entirely new, utterly new over his very own new person. While young new linger then designates his very person her own new fine, great new loving, new true new spouse. Her very own new puerile new antics are then causing his very person to then quite so very new, truly now suffocate with very new deep new shame. She then further new presses his very own new buttons when she then commences to then new loudly new weep, and then implore his very person to then rescue his very own new precious new fine, great, new, loving, new, true new spouse. While the ruffians decline to liberate her person, Shun's discomposure then quite so very new, truly, now, very new, quite so greatly new intensifies. When the very sinister, new faction new members then erupt in loud new laughter at her very bold new claim, deriding his very person for then consorting with a very new small, new young, new fine, new mere, new little new mate. Precisely new akin to those new very foolish, new quite, so very new sad, new prior, new hapless new explorers. These very new individuals are then additionally new, attempting to then new assert their very own new dominance, professing then exclusive new entitlements to then advance within this very new specific new great fine new territory. Shun is then acutely new aware from his very own new prior new very tense new great fine new sad dispute that this is the new exclusive new domain of the very new verdant new serpent new, vile new dark new crew. The new individual then garbed in feline new pelt then inquires how he then presumes to arrive new here, to then advance his new tiers, if he is then quite so very new fully new aware of the new proprietorship, the feline new pelted new guy. Additionally, then recalls to his very own new mind that his very own new comrades were then ambushed new here during the new diurnal new period, and then desires to then ascertain if our hero Shun then possessed any new great role in that very new sad, new tragic, new fine, new great, new vile, new awful, new grim, new sad, new event, new Shun. Assuredly, then, quite so new claims that he then bears no new responsibility for the very new, sad, new defeat of their very new comrades, implying then that if they then doubt his very own new great fine, true new deep, new strong, new word, they may then simply new await their new revival and then inquire new quite so very new directly. The new individual in the very feline new pelt then sneers quite so very new, contemptuously new at our hero Shun, casting new aspersions and then new assert. They are then quite so very new, fully new aware. He is then excessively new, quite so very new, greatly new, truly new Tim, to then vanquish a very new party, then comprising new 4, or then even new 5 new other new members. He subsequently then inquires of our hero Shun, then his very own new, genuine, new, true, deep, new, strong, new, great, new purpose for then being new there. Shun then nonchalantly new replies then that he is merely new, quite, so very new, aimlessly new, quite, so new, casually new meander. One of the very new crew new members then challenges his very own new, great, fine, true, new, deep, new, strong, new assertion, maintaining then that their new assuredly is a very new, concealed, new chieftain, then new, very close, new, quite so new nearby. They then emphasize then that they new possess no new knowledge of then how our hero Shun acquire that very new specific, new great fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new valuable, new information. Yet then all the many new creatures and also their new spoils within this very new territory then belong new, exclusively new to them. Shun then cannot then avoid then reflecting on the new sheer new arrogance of these very new imbeciles. He is then quite so very new certain new that even if he then granted them the new opportunity to then vanquish the great new Lupin, new monarch, they would then not new possess even a new fleeting new chance. Yet then this very new arrogance is then additionally new, a new fortuitous, new great fine, true new deep, new strong, new blessed, a new ideal new opportunity to then eliminate this very new wretched new group new entirely. Thus he then proposes that if they then new liberate young new linger new from their new grasp, the very new concealed new chieftain will then belong new exclusively new to their very own new vile new sad new quite foolish new group. The new individual in the very feline new pelt then feels quite so very new, greatly new, truly now derided, incapable then of new believing that a new individual as very new wretched as our hero Shun then imagines he can then new parley with his very own new great fine strong new very powerful new, esteemed new person. He then promptly new inquires of our hero Shun, if he is not then, yet new comprehended with whom he is new engaged. Ultimately, then Shun then resolves to then inquire of the new feline new individual, his very own new appellation. The new subordinate of this very new individual then interjects and then presents him as New Young New Chunk, the very new, third, New Young New Fine New, Grand New Scion. He is then the very new successor to the then second new largest new conglomerate within all of New Young New Chunk, and then holds the new 20 new seventh new position on the very new, celestial, new fine, great new grand new, important new roster. It then appears our own protagonist is not then influenced by this very new scoundrel's new great new status new whatsoever, as he then regards them then as nothing new more than mere new, quite so very new common new folk, by his very own new elevated new standards. He then recalls that their very new organization then possesses new 40 new % of the very new total new shares. And then even New Young New Chang's very own new parent is then essentially a new subordinate to our hero Shun. Ultimately then Shun then replies by new conceding that he has then heard new considerable new things new about new them. Yet he then persists and then not new comprehending the very new purpose of the very formal new great fine new long new introduction. Young New Chong then grins and then instructs our own protagonist to then relinquish all his very new precious new possessions and also his new funds as new recompense for then being new quite so very new unruly. Well, that then is the very new ultimate new fine great new final new great fine new point of new offense. Shun is then at very long new last new, completely new, entirely new, utterly new, exasperated. He then resolves it is the new opportune, new perfect, new, right new, great, fine new moment to then confront these very new scoundrels new directly, without then any new, further new, great, fine, new, true, new, deep, new, strong, new, great, new, clear, new hesitation. He then cautions them that he then never knew intended to then exacerbate the very tense new situation. Yet he then shall not new tolerate their very new superiority, new complex, any new much new, greatly new further. Shun then extends his very own new hand, readying then to new snap his very own new fingers and then call forth his new many new phantoms. Yet then unexpectedly a very new profound new roar then resounds throughout the very dark, new, deep, new, foul, new, smelly, new cavern, startling them then quite so very new, greatly new, truly, now unawares. He then experiences very new, great new annoyance that the very new beast then selected this very new, precise new moment of all the very many new possible new times to then reveal its very new, formidable new, great, fine, new, fearsome, new presence. Yang New Chong and also his new party new members then grin quite so very new slyly, assured in their very own new, great, fine, true, new, deep, new, strong, new, great, new, clear, new, false, new bravado. Upon then comprehending there, then genuinely new, truly now, is a very new, concealed, new chieftain then within the new cavern. Young New Chong then rallies his very own new crew, exclaiming then that this new is their very new opportune, new perfect, new, right new, great, fine, new, fleeting new moment to then truly new surely now shine. And then demonstrate what it then truly new surely now means new to be. A new member of the very new verdant, new serpent new, vile new dark new crew. He then volunteers to then lead all the very new individuals to the very new, celestial, new fine, great new grand new, important new roster. Vowing then to then exhibit to the very new entire new world how very new indomitable they then genuinely new truly now are. Energized by this very new motivational, new great fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new, clear, new false, new rhetoric. The very new crew then marches then quite so very new, blindly new behind their very own new foolish new leader. Entirely then quite so very new blinded by their very own new great fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new clear, new false, new excitement. Within their very new eagerness to then confront the great new Lupin, new monarch. They then even new fling young new linger, then back new towards our hero Shun. Resolve resolving then to then settle their very new business with his very person new subsequently. Shun then reflects on then how they are then rushing new, headlong new into very new, imminent new peril, lacking even a new shred of any new proper, new great fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new clear, new preparation. As they are then not new prepared to then heed any new reason. He then emphasizes that it then shall not new be his very own new fault. Should they then fall new into the very new snares he had then deployed. The new instant they then approach the very new tunnel, new egress then. The very new snares then activate quite so very new swiftly, seizing their new forms, new instantaneously, new presently, that the very new snares have then been new triggered. The great new loop-in, new monarch then resolves, it is the new opportune, new perfect, new, right, new, great, fine, new moment to then emerge from new concealment. The very new crew is then entirely new perplexed by the very new, monstrous, new creature then, directly new before their new eyes. One of the very new crew, new members, then reports some very new grim new information to the new chief. That the very new creature is then a new fine, great new tier, new 20 new, formidable new, very strong new monster. Yang then grinds his very own new teeth in very new, deep new vexation, and then resolves it is the new opportune, new perfect, new, right, new, great, fine new moment to then discharge his new, concealed, new warrior, new talent. The very new berserker, new giant, which he then acquired then within the very new diversion, while he then discharges his very own new power. His very new slender new form, then rapidly new quite, so very new greatly new, truly now expands. His very new muscles then, so very new colossal, they then shred the very new garment he is then new wear. His very new visage then hardens, and his very new muscles then additionally new acquire this very new rock new like new hardness. The new interface, new notification then appears, exhibiting then the very new berserker new, giants, many new fine, great new, very new capabilities, and new aptitude, so very new remarkable, it then even new captures our hero Shun's very own new keen new attention. Young new linger inquires then if he is then genuinely new, truly now going to then permit these very new individuals to then seize his very own new treasure. And also the very new mission he then arrived new here new to then complete. Shun then merely new grins, quite so very new frigidly new stating there is then no new requirement to then new rush. As he then desires to then observe these very new imbeciles, then new struggle new, quite so very new greatly. Concurrently then the very new entire new crew is then quite so very new, greatly new, truly now energized to then observe their very own new third, new young, new scion. Assured then he can then manage the very new peril, then directly new before their new eyes. Despite the very new loop-in, new monarchs, then colossal, new great fine, true new deep, new strong, new great, new clear, new dimensions. Young, new Chung is then assured his new talent, then grants his very person in new, incredible, new strength, new augmentation. Additionally, then with so very new many new individuals, then on his very own new side, and also their new healing, new capabilities. He then surmises he then shall new be new fine. Unless the great new loop-in, new monarch, then succeeds in then vanquishing his very person in a new solitary, new great fine, quick, true, new fast, new single, new strike. Yet he is then quite so very new assured he then possesses new this new great, new fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new clear, new advantage. While his very new gravest, new nightmare then strikes his very own new person. When the great new loop-in, new monarch then merely new swings its very own new talon, and then creates a new aperture, then directly new quite so very new, swiftly now, through his very new hardened new form. All the new individuals, new mandibles then drop new quite so very new greatly. Even our hero Shun is then stunned to then observe the great new loop-in, new monarchs, then steal new peak, new talon, new aptitude. Instantaneously, then inflict new 8, new 100 new harm, then, with very new, incredible new celerity. A staggering new 0, new point, new 7, new moment, new assault, then that then entirely new, ignores new, any new protection. Fortunately then, for new Yang, new Chung, he is then yet new persisting with new, 80 new vitality, new remain. Following that very new brutal, new great, fine, true, new deep, new strong, new great, new clear, new fearsome, new strike. The great new Lupin, new monarch, then flings his very person new aside, then quite like a very new piece of new refuse. And he then crashes new, forcefully new to the very new, unforgiving, new cold, new great fine, new hard new earth. Observing their new chieftain, then sustain a new blow, and then new fall new quite, so very new greatly. The very new others, then ultimately new, make the very new prudent new choice. And then commence new fleeing for their very own new wretched new quite, so very new sad, new pitiful new short, new fleeting new existences. Young new Chong then cannot then avoid, then experiencing very new great new annoyance, then observing these very new individuals, who are then so very new arrogant, then merely new fleeting new moments, new quite so very new previously. Transform then into a new group of very new timid, new fine, new sad, new weak new individuals. He then commences to then advance new, quite so very new surely. As it is then the new opportune, new perfect, new, right new great fine new moment to then assume new control of new matters from new this new point. Concurrently, then the great new Lupin, new monarch, then emits a very new colossal new roar, signaling then its new many new minions to then pursue those very new fleeing, new timid, new fine, new sad, new weak new individuals. Young New Chong's very new subordinate calls out then to her very own new comrades to then engage the very new tier, new two new Lupins, and then rescue their very own new leader, yet the very new others are then not new precisely. Keen then to then new sacrifice their very own new existences new in such a new foolish new manner. Thus they then persist in then new, fleeing new, quite so very new rapidly. One of the very new individuals then glances new rearward and then observes our hero shun, then advancing new quite so very new surely. Rather than new, retreating our own protagonist, then new concedes. The great new Lupin, new monarch's very new, clever new stratagem of then employing the very new others as new bait. To then activate the very new snares yet. He then emphasizes then that the very new subsequent new adversary will then not new be then as new foolish as these very new individuals. Concurrently, then it is then observed that new young new Chong is then yet new persisting new quite so very new greatly. Though he then is new pondering, then precisely knew how new foolish and new individual then must new be. To then genuinely new truly now approach the great new Lupin, new monarch. Rather than new fleeing, he then possesses no new comprehension of then our hero shuns new thoughts. Yet he then surmises it is then preferable to then simply new feign new demise until the new pandemonium then subsides. While the very new monarchs, new many new minions, then rush new towards our own protagonist. He then calmly new dons his very own new visage, emphasizing then that if they then are new Lupins, then his very person is the new feline. He then discharges his very own new powers, and then merely his very new presence new alone propels those very new, low new tier, new Lupins, new flying new, quite so very new, far new rear. The great new Lupin new monarch then observes its new many new minions then being new flung new aside, and then grows new quite so very new furious, prior then to its new ability to then new react. A new barrage of then electrified new shafts then arrives new speeding new towards its very own new form. The great new Lupin, new monarch then ducks, and also then eludes with very new lightning new celerity. And our hero shun, then observing this very new action, grinds his very own new teeth in very new deep new vexation. At that very new speed, the very new monarch is then moving then excessively new swift for our hero shuns new accuracy to then new match, which then essentially new implies that if he then cannot new manage his very own new aim, he then shall not new be then capable of then landing even a new solitary new great fine new single new strike. The great new Lupin new monarch then once new again new discharges its very own new steel new peak new telon, and it then seems our hero shun then possesses new barely new sufficient new time to then new react. He then ultimately new sustains the very new blow, causing then young new linger to then be new, quite so very new concern. Fortunately, then Shun then succeeded in then activating his very own new Aegis, then precisely new timeline. Yet the very new blow then nonetheless new diminishes new 500 of his very own new vitality. After then depleting his very own new Aegis new, quite so very new completely. Yet then quite so. He then possesses a new substantial new portion of his very new vitality, new remain. The great new Lupin, new monarch, then chuckles quite so very new softly, then following its very new decisive new strike. Yet our hero Shun then replies with a very new confident new grin of his very own new self. Despite them being new, quite so very new injured. He then informs this very new oversized new Lupin that he then can new elude its very new assaults new also.